maybe they'll end up in one of the many schools we have in this country that is not safe to actually have anyone inside, because it's made of this thing called Raac, reinforced, autoclaved, aerated concrete. No, I'd never heard of it before last week either. You probably never did. I hadn't. My guess is the head teachers, the staff and the parents of the children there hadn't heard of it either. But you know what? The funny thing is, it turns out the government did know there was a problem with this stuff. Hundreds of schools, hospitals, council buildings, many other buildings, all built with this stuff in the 1950s and 60s. It was the brilliant new concrete. It was cheaper, it was quicker. Brilliant, let's use this stuff. Well, turns out, not so good after all. It's basically like building your schools out of an aero bar full of air. Trouble is, it can crumble and collapse at any moment. We know this because it's actually happened. A school and a hospital many years ago did actually see those problems. That led to some safety inspections and concerns in the late 90s. A report from the government basically saying a lot of these schools were unsafe. Do you remember reading about it? Do you remember that on the BBC 6 o'clock news? Because I don't. I've looked up all the cuttings from the last 20, 30 years. Not a single word on this mentioned in the Sunday Times. July last year, that's the first I've seen a mention. And now we're learning, as we learned just a few days ago, just days before children return to school this week, that 156 schools in England are known to be at risk. Many hundreds others we simply don't know and the schools don't know. And 104 schools have told you have to close some buildings or you have to move out completely, return your children to remote learning lockdown style for thousands of them because these schools are unsafe. How on earth did we get into this position? Are we a first world country anymore? This is the 21st century. How did we not know about this? How are these buildings being left there? And why are we being told by the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt in the BBC show yesterday that they'll spend whatever is necessary to deal with this, spend what it takes, he said. And only a few hours later, Treasury officials are saying, oh, there's not any new money. So schools which have seen a per-pupil fall in funding over the last 20 years are going to be expected to just rebuild their schools from nothing? This is a joke. This is a joke. It's a sick joke and it's an unsafe joke. Because you don't know today whether your kids are going into school, into a classroom that could collapse on them any moment. And it doesn't appear that anyone in government had seemed to care about this.